Maybe it could become a best-selling series. So let's go for e4 here. I am predominantly a d4 player, but I like to mix it up and play e4 online. Those open games are sometimes just more fun. At least they add some variety. So I'll go for the two knights variation against my own opening, the Caro-Kann Defense, which we saw in the last game from the black side. Not this variation, but the Caro-Kann in general. So my opponent goes for this line, which is very, very common idea nowadays. It's very trendy, this knight f6, and usually they take like this, and it's a so-called Korchnoi variation. And here, let's put the queen on f4. Where does the name Caro-Kann come from? It actually comes from two different players, Horacio Caro and Marcus Kann. And I think the two of them together maybe in the 19th century, something like this, they actually did, they wrote some kind of manual. I think one of them was English, Horacio Caro, I think, while the other one was German, I think. And the German guy, Marcus Kann, I think he ran some kind of German chess periodical or newspaper that ran up until maybe the early 20th century, something like this. Or maybe even the late 18th century. I'm not exact on the dates. And so they actually produced some article on this. And I think that's where it came from. Both players actually did play it a bit, but I think one of them didn't actually play it quite so much. So this opening seems utterly absurd, what's going on in terms of the queen just moving around a lot. But my opponent, he wants to exchange the queens, and I'll say, fine, I can't maybe avoid it permanently, at least I don't feel like I can, but I want to exchange them in my own terms. So initially when he offered the exchange, it was here on d5, and I rejected it because then it would improve his structure. Next, when he offered the exchange was here, I rejected it because again I felt that would improve his structure. And then here, I once again rejected it because I felt I could have taken it here actually and played against his doubled pawns, but I felt that I preferred this. Now he goes for it again. To me, this was no surprise. Bishop d3. And the logic here, actually probably, maybe I had some queen c7. I'm not so sure. Queen c7, knight d7, I'm not so sure. But bishop d3, and now he finally gets his wishes. But it does give me this semi-open h file. So I'm hoping that allows me to create a little bit of I don't know, something bit of dynamism to the position. So I'm going b3. The reason for this is my bishop is in front of the d pawn, so I'm going to go for bishop to b2. Bishop to b2 and try and put some pressure here. One of the nice things about the pressure on g7 is that if he were to try and block it with f6, then his pawns would be kind of arranged like a snake and his light squares would be too weak. Definitely want to keep my bishop, so I'll drop that back. Just catching up with the chat. Rajmitun says, let me drive this knight into a good central square. Also, one of the things with bishop to d7 is he wants to castle, but the point is that when I put my knight on e5, sorry, as I did here, now he cannot castle immediately because the pawn on f7 would fall. After bishop e6, now I'm very tempted by d4, but I'm just trying to figure out if d4 is necessarily so good, because maybe it blocks off this bishop activity. So maybe this move here, bishop h5, might be really annoying potentially, because again, I'm trying to see what my opponent wants to do, which is to castle, and I'm trying to make that as awkward as possible for him. So in chess, you know, that's a huge part of just playing chess. Try to make your opponent's life as unpleasant as possible. And then they call it a sport for gentlemen. So let me see. But my opponent is playing very well. Now he's got some pressure here. Now what I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to keep the bishop. Maybe take it to e2, something like this. And my idea is, it looks as though I'm hanging a pawn, but I'm really hoping I'm not. My idea is that if he takes it, I'll go d3, and this bishop will be stuck on c2, and then I can hunt the piece down. So he hasn't taken it, he's gone for knight d5 instead. In my opinion, my opponent's strategy is very heavily weighted towards, it's a strategy of trying to simplify. He perhaps it's a good approach when you're facing stronger opponents, high-rated opponents, so you try to just get some pieces off the board. But you have to be a bit careful, because sometimes that can backfire. If you're not careful, you can end up, in your eagerness to exchange pieces, you can sometimes end up missing maybe some specific idea, or you can end up just giving a little bit too comfortable of a position to your opponent. So that's something definitely to watch out for. In this case, I took on d5 because I had seen this idea, take on d5, open up this diagonal against the king, and then after rook h5, if he goes bishop e6, his bishop is kind of badly placed relative to his pawns. It's blocking here, this pawn. And if he goes e6, then he can no longer meet this check with bishop d7. So that was the idea behind rook h5. And now my hope is that somehow his king being on d8 is a little bit of an achievement for me. To be honest, I don't think it's such a big deal for him, because with the queens off the board, the king will probably land on a square like c7. But okay, you gotta take what you can get. My opponent's been playing overall very well, so this is probably the most that I can. I mean, this is the most that I've been able to get. So I don't think I have an advantage, though, if I'm honest. I think the position is just equal. But I do think he has to be a little bit careful because of the pressure. So for example, I'm going to go here. I'm going to set up a little trick. I'm going to invite this move. But the idea is that I can actually take this pawn. And if he goes rook here, then I'll take this pawn. And if he goes, he can then take this guy, but I'll have two pawns and a bishop for a rook, which I think is good. I mean, in this position, I think it's reasonable. But yeah, my opponent, maybe he spotted it, maybe it was something else, but he decided he did not take the bait. I'm going C4 just to try to activate my pieces. And one of the things that I can say is, although my opponent may not have, we may not have queens on the board, that doesn't mean that his king is entirely safe. With two rooks and two bishops on the board, definitely you can create some serious attacking possibilities. And now I'm thinking maybe rook takes c4, or maybe this check here, intermezzo. Let's go for the check intermezzo. And I'm not going to play b takes c4. If I took b takes c4, my structure overall would be better. My structure would be better like this. I leave myself with an IQP, but I don't so much care about an IQP because I'm more interested in piece activity than in improved structure. In chess, you know, much like in life, right? You can't have it all. You have to choose. And I think that the structure here is the secondary factor. So here we'll take, and that was not, for the record, I called it a secondary factor. It was not a play on Chessfactor, though had I thought of it in time, it would have been. So here, bishop f3, and he did fall for a trick here with bishop h5 check. g6, I guess he was expecting me to move the bishop, but you know, he missed this idea under a bit of pressure for quite some time. I'll go bishop g7. I'm expecting the move rook f7, so that's why I'm hovering over the f7 square. I'm expecting it because he's, again, up on time relative to me. Oh, I actually think I had blundered there. If he had gone rook h8 immediately and then I go bishop e3, there would be rook h1 check. So I would have blundered the piece, I think. But luckily my opponent did not go for it. And now it's just important to try not to lose on time. I'm not a huge fan, actually, of that last move of mine. For exactly the reason that he showed. Oof. Oof, that was terrible. That was a terrible pre-move, but I am going for the clock. I'm going for the clock, guys. And I think that I should be okay on the clock. Yeah, so I just had switched to the clock play there. And yeah, I blundered, but okay, it is what it is.